All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. All right. So I wanted to, before we bring some of our guests into the house, I did want to share a few shout outs. One thing that I'm excited about, we have been in conversation with the Baltimore City Public School System around the summer programming. And today we were able to announce that we reached a really good compromise around Fridays. Previously, the summer programs were going to only be 4 days a week. And for me, that was a concern because I know that for a lot of our kids that summer, it can be a really tough time in terms of exposure to violence. And so 4 days a week is a challenge. It's also a challenge, as I know as a dad, as a parent, for working parents. And so today we were able to announce that we are going to have field trip Fridays where the summer partners from city schools can bring young people to anywhere they want, field trips on a Friday. And just since announcing that, we've gotten the aquarium reached out, a couple of museums reached out, but it's just been really gratifying to see Baltimore come together to wrap our arms around our young people and try to find a path to having a great, not only safe, but joyful, fun, enriching summer for our children. And that is what they deserve. So really, really excited about Field Trip Fridays. And I also did want to just lift up two things really quickly. One is big shout out to Donna Bruce. I was just in the little mini Zoom room with Donna, and as she always does, Donna was able to support and save a life today, help someone who'd been experiencing trafficking to get the support and services that they need. And so thank you to Donna for that and for all the great work you're doing, life-saving work you're doing as our peer navigator coordinator in the libraries. It is so good to have you doing that work. And then I also wanted to give a huge shout out to my man, our task force member, Elijah Davis, who is completing his years on parole and is just a absolute model of what it means to return and to create change and find meaning, and has been just an enormous part of this task force, has been a just an incredible role model for folks coming out of incarceration. And so I just want to give a huge trauma-informed care task force shout out and thank you and emojis and all the rest to Elijah for completing his parole.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, team.
Go team. All right, fantastic. With that, Franny, can you put the agenda in the chat one more time? Are there other folks who would like to do a shout out? This is the period of the agenda where if you got either your own work or someone else on the task force, if you'd like to lift someone up, now is definitely the time to do it.
I think I want to echo the lifting up of Donna. I got to see her this week in action in the Walbrook branch, and it was just very affirming. Her working with individuals there and leaving out literature and materials that can really help our community. And I also want to shout her out because when I did College and Career Week, many members of this task force came, but Donna's story was very impactful because she talked about a career. First of all, she's got lots of careers, but when she talked about, peer navigator and peer recovery, that was something that a lot of young people had never heard of. and wanted to learn more about. And so I just really appreciated her uplifting a career path that many may not know, but is very critical in our city.
Absolutely. And also shout out to Teresa Bruce, who coordinated KIPP's massive career day. I swear she had every like who's who of Baltimore up in there. Like I was like, oh, there's the mayor, there's Odette, there's Donna. It was like beautiful and joyful, and talking to the kids was incredible. I got to also see I think Baltimore Medical System runs a community health clinic in the school, and that was incredible over at KIPP. But big shout out to Ms. Bruce for coordinating College and Career Week. I know that was a lot, but it was awesome, and I was super excited. Oh, that's right, it was Rails Clinic that runs their health suite at KIPP. But yeah, huge shout out to all the work that Ms. Bruce put into that week. It was dope, and everybody was there, and you did an awesome job, and getting to meet the kids was amazing. Phil, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, so I'm not sure it's a shout out, but the Maryland Trauma Commission is sort of meeting, and as I said before, and I think it's exemplified by this meeting, Baltimore has been it's been in existence longer than the state commission. I think a lot of the organizations, both the formal and informal organizations, are doing a lot of work. And so I co-chair the Public Awareness Committee for the state. And so want to help disseminate, or question is, how can best disseminate? Obviously, this meeting is recorded and other things. But if you're doing programming and other things you think that is useful, that people at the state level should understand, know about, even potentially attend if there are opportunities to attend, but also where you're having successes, so that hopefully we can then have the state support the local successes and help expand them. Please get in touch with me. I'll put my contact information back in the chat. But I think particularly now that moving into the next year, there's going to be new appointments to the commission. The new governor will, I think, have a much more active role, because this is something he's very much campaigned on and is very invested in. And again, I just think that although there are people in other places of the state that are doing very good and positive trauma work, and that some of people even on this commission, on the task force for Baltimore, work in other areas. And Zeke, again, I think is a positive model of working with the Eastern Shore folks. I mean, again, we're trying to develop collaborations for more than just being within the vicinity. But I think the more we, the Public Awareness Committee would very much like to help disseminate the information, let people, not create it, but let people know things that are going on, particularly the things that are working. So I think that's one thing I wanted to do. And then yesterday, Andrew Muhammad and I went down and met with some staff from the Department of Justice about the work that they're doing, also that's going on in Baltimore, in particular, how trauma relates to the violence prevention efforts, and how the people that are engaged in the violence prevention efforts, in addition to the victims, need to be supported in other things. And so we had a really good discussion with them. I'm hopeful that they're going to follow up, and that we also may be convening a meeting in Baltimore in October, which will have a whole bunch of both federal and national partners, as well as the state and local partners. I'll keep people aware of that.
Awesome. Phil, always appreciate you being the bridge between different efforts. And yes, absolutely. Let's pull the commission, the task force together. We were able to, this was really exciting, and thanks for teeing it up. We were able to go out to the Eastern Shore. There's interest in expanding the Peer Navigators program out there. They have their own peer program that they started in what was the year, Kim? I can't remember but it was a couple years back. But a lot of their stuff has been happening in Cambridge, which is, I think, the largest city on the Eastern Shore. We went to a different part of the Eastern Shore where they are very interested in having at least a peer and maybe building a peer program. Also, the Secretary of Opioid Response for Westmore, Emily Keller, is interested in bringing it to Hagerstown, where she used to be the mayor. So a lot of great energy and expansion happening. And Phil is like the conduit to all the things. So definitely reach out to him. All right. With that, unless anyone else has any other shout outs, I am going to very excitedly hand the mic to our Healing City Baltimore director, Kim Legree, who is going to introduce a brand new staff member at Healing City Baltimore. I am super, super pumped to have Rashida on the team. I'm going to let Kim do the introduction, but I'll just say that I've watched Rashida's work from something of a distance, and she is an absolute rock star. And we are incredibly blessed and fortunate to have her as part of the Healing City family. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Director Kim.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I won't take up too much of your time. I echo Zeke's sentiments that we are so super excited. I had the pleasure of interviewing Rashida along with one of our other co-founders, Mark Jews, who is also on the line, and our wonderful public health fellow, public policy fellow and coordinator, Franny. And we could not have selected a better person. So with that, before we share more about Rashida, I just want to hand it over to our co-founder, Mark Jews, who will share just some thoughts about the process, and Ms. Harrow.
Thank you all. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. I was just making sure I was not able to navigate the Zoom connection, so I'm on the phone. So thank you all for having me. I was very fortunate to work alongside of our now director, Dr. Legree, as well as Franny, in regards to interviewing several well-versed candidates. And I think we are very fortunate that Ms. Brackington chose us, as well as we chose her, so to be a great marriage moving forward. But I just have a few words in regards to her background and some of the work that she has done, as Zeke spoke about, and that has been yeoman's work. So Ms. Brackington has a background of mentoring and supporting the wellness of youth since 1999. Working at Baltimore City Public Schools, Rashida realized the importance of supporting youth holistically. Starting in 2002, she assisted in the development of youth programming and policy for multiple schools in the Baltimore community. In 2015, she transitioned from BCPSS to work at the Baltimore Child Abuse Center, now Center for Hope, in the role of school and community program specialist. In this role, Rashida developed, facilitated, and managed programs for youth who have experienced sexual trauma. Her focus has led to initiatives in Baltimore City Public Schools and other youth-serving organizations to positively impact communities with trauma-sensitive approaches. During her time with Center for Hope, she worked with the Anti-Trafficking and Exploitation Program as an advocate and the Handle with Care coordinator for Baltimore City. In 2018, Rashida co-founded Fearlessly Loving Yourself, i.e. FLY, a youth program committed to providing a safe space that inspires confidence and personal advancement through support and building opportunities for success. For her efforts throughout her career, the Mayor's Office of Baltimore has recognized her work in West Baltimore schools. She's also received recognition for her work in community advancement programs connecting citizens to housing, career development, as well as job placement. As a native Baltimorean, Rashida has dedicated her personal and professional life to uplifting communities through prevention and intervention educational programs. She has led and been a part of many interdisciplinary teams focused on being agents of change in Baltimore City. And that, in a nutshell, is why she is awesome, will be awesome in this newfound position, and continue to lead and move Healing City Baltimore, as well as the Trauma-Informed Care Task Force, forward and increase the wellness for the people of our community.
Thank you so much, co-founder Mark Jews. We are so super excited as well. I'm going to pass it to Rashida for her to briefly introduce herself. You guys will be seeing much more of her. But Rashida, please say hello to everyone. Welcome to the team.
Buddy, can you hear me well? Okay, good. I'm so excited to join your team and progress our city. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you and learning more about the great things that you're doing and how we can push this initiative forward and our city forward and our citizens forward. So thank you so much. I'm absolutely honored and humbled to be a part of the team.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rashida. We are pumped to have you on board. A lot of love and enthusiasm in the chat. Thank you to Kim, to Mark, to everybody. I did also want to shout out two of our brand new youth members on the Trauma Informed Care Task Force. Please give a big, big, big Trauma Informed Care welcome to Noah. And I see Noah is on there. Noah Dow. And also to Charity Fisher. Give it up for Noah and Charity, who are our brand new youth members of the Trauma Informed Care Task Force. Pumped to have you all on as well. Hey, Charity. All right. Outstanding. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. We are excited to jump to our next portion. We are almost on time. I'm a little bit off my time, but that's okay. We are going to be talking virtual stoop stories, community, faith, and trauma. And I am excited to have three great folks, actually four great folks with us. We're going to share a little bit about this effort. We've got Pastor Matt Stevens from Somebody Cares Baltimore. We've got Captain Andrew Mohammed from We Are Us. We've got Dr. Phil Leaf. You all know Dr. Phil. And we've got the amazing Dr. Kevin Bishop, Dr. Bishop Kevin Daniels. You all know Kevin from Healing Us Together, as well as task force member. So I'm going to give it to you all to take it away to share about the virtual stoop stories, community, faith, and trauma.
Awesome. You are up first, Pastor Matt. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good to be with you all. Bless you. And the Cap, Don, Kimberly, just so many of my favorites to serve our wonderful city together. And I'm in the car, so I apologize if this cuts in or out. But I want to share a little bit with you about our Somebody Cares Baltimore. And you may not know Somebody Cares Baltimore as a name or an organization. It's really, we call it the net that works. It's faith-based pastors, ministers, lay ministers coming together. We've done some different strategies in the past around safety and feeding and justice. Some of you may remember we did the Days of Hope series in over 26 neighborhoods, events bringing as much resource as we can to those communities, and then continuing to walk with the churches and other institutions, faith-based institutions in those communities to serve and care for. There's so many great points of care around our city. And as we progress through, I remember mostly because of Kimberly and Doc's influence, really starting to think about trauma-informed care. My day job is I get the pleasure of serving the Baltimore City Police Department and coordinate the chaplains and community programs. And we began to work together in initiatives with the department, with the health department and the faith community doing trauma-informed care. We just realized that there weren't many of these uniquely positioned and uniquely gifted people that are all throughout our faith communities, didn't know much about trauma-informed care. As a matter of fact, there's been, especially, I'll just speak for the church specifically, there's been a big gap between theology, faith, and the clinical side of that's needed in terms of trauma. And there just wasn't a lot of best practices or things that we could do. There've been a lot of great, counseling centers and places people could go, but not necessarily a lot of material or strategy that could be multiplied and scaled up for a city like Baltimore. So we began to do what we do, which is pray and relate and connect with the people that we have connections with. And out of that, we were able to actually find a faith-based program around trauma healing called Healing the Wounded Heart. and we were able to train over 240 folks that weren't clinicians, that weren't the therapists, but were maybe a step towards finding hope and really just being able to have somebody to talk to. And I don't know if you saw, I think it just came out yesterday, Surgeon General just said that loneliness, trauma, all those pieces, they likened it could kill you just like smoking cigarettes. And we certainly see that every day in what we're dealing with. So our goal is to be able to, I don't run a clinic. Thank God I'm not gifted. I know the lane that I need to be in. And that's trying to bring materials and resources to those practitioners and those in the faith community that do want to begin to help people find their journey, find their path for healing, because that's what it's about for us. So Somebody Cares is honored to serve. We continue to serve. We're looking to expand some things in the days ahead. And man, I'm just so grateful for what God's been doing and what all the work that you all have been doing, Councilman Cohen and the others. And of course, the We Are Us fellows are getting ready to get on. There's just nothing better than this group of people right here in Baltimore City that's doing the work. And I tell everybody about that and brag on the good stuff that's going on. So thanks for letting me chime in today. And please keep doing the good work. And if there's anything we can do to serve you, please let us know. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate you. Could not agree more. There is no better group out there than the folks who are on this Zoom right now. And it really is a collective effort. It is all of us working together in each of our lanes and each of our spaces, but also holding our city together. I really fundamentally believe that the healing comes from us, that there is no one coming out to save us. It's going to be us that saves us. And that is both the work that Pastor Matt has been doing, and I'm really excited to welcome to the Trauma Informed Care Task Force, Captain Andrew Muhammad, who, if you don't know We Are Us, I don't know who you are, because they are an absolute force in the city of Baltimore. They are present in our streets, in our communities, in our churches, in our mosques, in our synagogues. They are out there supporting families, feeding folks, helping young people connect with job opportunities. They're the real deal. And I'm really, really excited to welcome Captain Andrew Muhammad to share with us some of the work that they have been doing in our city.
Thank you, Councilman. First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity. I want to thank Kim and her team for connecting with us. And then also I want to thank all the great leaders on here. And I just heard Matt Stevens, one of our strong partners who never tells us no. And I see the great Bishop, Dr. Phil. So it's just an honor. See Elijah, man, I can go on and on. Just thankful to be living and having a purpose in life, you know, as it relates to saving life. I mean, the good thing is I don't need a script to talk about what we do, because this is what we live, this is what we pray for, and this is what we want to die doing. So it's always an honor to be asked to share a few words on something that you love to do, and you can just speak straight from your heart and what you see and, you know, see and do every day. The great thing about the work that we're doing with We Are Us is it's a very diverse team, and we've been rolling now for 5 years. And the beauty of it is we started off for 4 straight years with $0. I mean, nobody was getting money, nobody was getting a paycheck, and we was wondering where the next dollar was going to come from to feed the community. So I think that's the beautiful thing about our infrastructure is everybody has the same focus, the same vision, and they want to serve, you know, humanity. And that's the beauty of We Are Us. And I'm honored to be amongst so much great men that really love, you know, the citizens of Baltimore City and really want to see change, particularly around this violence that's taking place in our city. I'll just say one of the things that we're doing, Councilman and Ms. Kim, was very key that we are missing is the community engagement. And I think that's the beauty of We Are Us. And I'm honored to be amongst so much great men that really love, you know, the citizens of Baltimore City and really want to see change, particularly around this violence that's taking place in our city. I'll just say one of the things that we're doing, Councilman and Ms. Kim, was very key that we are missing is the the men that's incarcerated. For 9 years, I had a staff of 6 men down in juvenile justice, and the incident rate when we went in there was off the chain. The gangs was running the juvenile justice. It was 120 beds down there, and 118 of the young men down there was Black. So thank God for Boys and Girls Club behind me. And, I brought 6 of my guys in there. We got the incident rates down. But also, what that did for the city of Baltimore, it gave the young men that kept getting locked up, and doing bad in school and selling drugs, some of the shooters, some of the murderers. We gave them, a purpose in life. We gave them some hope. They was able to see other Black men, because most of them didn't have fathers. So they didn't know what a father looked like. They didn't understand how to take instructions from a man, what a man looked like. What should I do? How should I wipe myself, my attire, education? They just didn't know. They didn't know because nobody taught them. And if don't nobody teach you, if you're not taught, you don't know what to do. So thank God for Boys and Girls Club for hiring us. For 9 years, we spent 9 years down up until COVID. So when COVID came, it took us out of there. So as we all know right now, the juvenile rate, or young men, particularly under 21, are engaged in, high crime, high violence, high carjackings. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's even in the school. We knew years ago what was taking place in the schools and what would happen if we wouldn't get our hands on that. And if you engage in the community, you already see the trends. You already know what's happening, particularly if it's not being fed. Same thing with the squeegee situation. If they're not being fed, this is the result of a lack of attention. And that's just the reality, whether we want to believe it or not. But if you boots on the ground, everybody know what I'm saying is real. So we have to get back into these prisons. We have to get back into these juvenile facilities, and we have to create more programs because the incidence rates are up. And believe it or not, a lot of the things that's taking place in the streets, some of it can be stopped through the prisons. And some of y'all know that and some of y'all don't, but that's just the reality. And we know we're not going to stop at all. But if we can get the murder rate down to 200 people being murdered and 500 people being shot, I know it's a crazy thing to say. It's painful just to say it, but it's a win. It's a win. And that's just one of the areas that we're missing. So we have to go after the areas that we're missing. And that's what we're striving to do, Councilman and Ms. Kim. So I really don't have a lot to say. I try to be an action man, but I'll say this last thing. So one of the things we have been doing is and it's really huge, is our Stop the Beef program. It was just a shooting over East Baltimore. We got the call this morning about the 2 men that were shot, and one of the pastors called us. We just happened to know the young man who was kind of responsible for it. So hopefully we'll be able to mediate that situation. And that's just the calls that we get every single week that we can't really talk about. But when you have a program like that, it needs to be expanded. And that's one of our problems in our city. We don't get behind the people who's doing the real work. Not that nobody else is doing real work, but we have to get behind the organizations that's doing the real work and expand it. Everybody knows we're not going to stop it, but it's a good feeling when our senior citizens, our children, our women can breathe, can come in that front yard and play ball, can walk to the grocery store, and then we can teach and train these young men to help grandma, to help granddaddy, clean that block up. And they know what it's like to be a young man at 12 and 13 years old. Know what it's like just to go into a gym and nobody smoking weed, nobody drinking. And these are the principles and values that we teach in our program that we have. We don't tolerate disrespect. We don't tolerate foolishness. You can't do what you want to do. You can't have your hoodie on. you have to be a young man. And we got away from the values and principles of how to teach and train a young man. And that's where the men come in at. So I'll stop right there, but I'm thankful to be a part of this Zoom meeting. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Captain Muhammad. And thank you to We Are Us. Just like you said, we need to invest in organizations that are on the ground, and they are a great example. And, you know, Baltimore really is a village, and the work that We Are Us is doing to feed folks and help people re-enter and connect, particularly young men, with opportunities is beautiful to behold. And, you know, we on the Trauma Informed Care Task Force really want to provide a platform for the doers in our city, the folks that are really doing the work and that are digging deep. And we know that there are so many people just like We Are Us that are doing great work in Baltimore that often don't get spotlighted or given a lot of love by the media. So really, really appreciate you all coming through, and welcome back anytime. Very, very excited also to introduce one of our very own, Dr. Kevin Daniels. As folks know, is both a professor at Morgan State and a pastor. Dr. Daniels is also one of the co-founders of HUT, which is Healing Us Together, with Dr. Phil as well. And they've been doing some absolutely extraordinary work supporting healing within the faith community and through a leadership model, advancing trauma-informed work. And so I'm really, really, really thrilled to have Dr. Daniels share a little bit about HUT with the task force.
Good evening, family. Good to be on the platform again. Councilman Cohen put me behind two great leaders that I love. We're not afraid to say that in our brotherhood, in our fellowship, brother Pastor Matt, but then also Captain Andrew. So glad to be a part of both platforms, particularly the We Are Us Men. So I'm excited about that as well. The Healing Us Together, really, let me go back a minute, because it really started with Councilman Cohen at that time, along with the then Mayor Jack Young, called upon me and Melissa, Dr. Melissa from Coppin, to be the coordinators during, as we entered into COVID, to be the coordinators of mental health and coordinate some services, because a lot of our systems at that time were, as far as providing services, were very scarce. And as all of you remember, during that particular time, it was extremely challenging because it was something that none of us had experienced before. And in that process and given that charge, of course, we co-founded, it was virtual starting off, we co-founded Healing Us Together, trauma community informed responsive community conversations. And it is a evidence-based, during that time, evidence-based community mitigation model during COVID for persons in general, leaders that could kind of coalesce and go deeper into several arenas during that time to provide services and to provide conversations, trauma-informed, responsive conversations during that particular time, and to advance what we call the evidence-based model of self. But we went on further to design Healing Us Together with self as a base. But for the most part, we used the 7 healing-centered commitments. And we also talked about, we grounded that particular work in the self model, which the framework builds trauma awareness and shared knowledge and practice into HUT's administrative structure using the best available, what we call neurobiology, the NEAR model. We included all of those in these conversations, the NEAR model, neurobiology, We talked about epigenetics, the ACEs, and resilience to facilitate some objectives. Number one, which was to build trauma responsive and healing-centered networks and collaborations among community leaders across the 14 districts. Number two, to prepare community leaders to facilitate 5-week community conversations in their prospective communities. And then number three, to develop a network of community leaders that serve as HUT facilitators across Baltimore. It is a deep dive. Again, even though I'm a licensed social worker, this was about community conversations over the last 3 years. They have continued to be successful. Not only have we dealt with, talked to, put this work into the hands of us, men, women, children, all of those things, families, faith leaders, a train the trainer kind of model so that they can go out and on the ground level be able to talk to people about, give them the terminology. Self deals with safety, safety model. It deals with emotional. It deals also emotions, also with loss, and also with how you point towards the future. We couched it in adaptive ways so that it could be culturally responsible. And we handed it over to community members. We're not trying to be the be all, so to speak. We turn it over to community members so they can continue to have backyard conversations. They can continue to have street corner conversations as far as we're concerned about trauma. There are some people that may not ever make a phone call. And HUT takes the place of that. It puts it in their hands so that they can move forward in a way that can bring healing to our community, from trauma to healing, but then most importantly, to being actively engaged in the process of helping our city. And that, again, Dr. Phil, you can kind of jump in to add anything that I probably left off. But in a nutshell, so to speak, that is really the purpose of HUT, and it's been going on for 3 years. And we just keep going across the 14 districts. It's been virtual, but then also now, of course, it's been in person, and we've seen some success stories. We've seen served as the bridge, moving from community even into some of the resources as hospitals, University of Maryland, Johns Hopkins, and some other programs as well. We also allow them to come into those 5 weeks and even to share their resources, because we're not being clinical in the groups. We're just allowing for these conversations to happen organically. There's a facilitator, and we hope that within those groups that all people would become facilitators of their own cohort of people. And we've seen high levels of success with that process. And I definitely want to thank Councilman Cohen for really entrusting that beginning and for us to look for a model that could be used during COVID, but then post-COVID as well. And we've seen some high levels of success. Dr. Phil?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add, and it's just really summarizing Matt's and Captain Andrew and your statement before, that if you look around the country, the communities that have been successful both in reducing violence and dealing with the trauma have engaged faith leaders, and not just the faith leaders, but the faith communities. And I think, as Matt was, talking about it, he has his day job with the police department, but he also is very much involved in bringing together a large number of churches and faith groups together in a very multifaceted things. And it's also things, as he pointed out, has been doing for years and years. And same thing for Andrew Muhammad, working with the Nation of the Fruits of Islam and Baltimore Brothers. That in Baltimore, where it's across the denominations. And there are also female leaders in these congregations as well as male leaders. So even though We Are Us, is primarily a men's group that has very close relationships with female pastors and other females. And I just think, again, as we're thinking about our task force, it's a real strength and asset of the city. And sometimes we sort of forget about the informal organizations or the quote non-governmental or the community-based organizations where it isn't a formal nonprofit. But I think our faith groups, as just exemplified by the other speakers, are really critical. And are really fortunate in Baltimore to have so many people who are, using their faith and their faith contacts to move positively.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phil and Dr. Daniels. It has been really, really, really a blessing to watch HUT. It's just being able to engage in deep spiritual, trauma-informed conversations with folks of faith, I think is incredibly important and path-breaking work. And the way that these folks have carried it is just really beautiful to behold. So again, I want to thank Kevin Daniels, Dr. Phil Leaf, just awesome work that y'all do, and I thank you for it. All right, so with that, again, we are thrilled to bring these 4 folks to the fore. We know that they're all doing exceptional work in our communities in different spaces. And so again, thank you to Pastor Matt, Captain Andrew Muhammad, and Doctors Leaf and Daniels. With that, excited to have some time for committee work. Let's jump right into it.
All right, thanks again to all of our presenters. Really grateful to have you here. And I'm going to open all the rooms, but as usual, oh yeah, also if you're youth, stay here. So youth subcommittee, stay here. Everybody else, join a breakout room. You should be able to pick one. If you cannot, hit me up in the chat. I will move you manually. Apologies to the youth group for taking up a couple minutes of your time here.
Are we coming back at the end or just leaving from our room?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so here's the thing. We are ideally coming back at the end, but if your group finishes earlier than the other groups, if you just shoot me a message, that's also perfectly fine.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, does anyone who is in here need to be moved somewhere?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Awesome. And then there are a couple people who are in here who like some medical people that I tried to manually move, and we might be having some difficulties, but I'm gonna head over into medical, but you can text me if there are some difficulties.
Sounds good. All
And
right.
have fun meeting our newest wonderful members.
Awesome. All right. So I wasn't here last week, so I'm playing a bit of catch up, but I heard from a little bird that our youth facilitators, our new youth leaders, since this is their first night, haven't had a chance to introduce themselves to the work group. So I wanted to propose that as the first item on our agenda tonight was having Noah and then Charity come off mute and tell us a little bit about themselves and their backgrounds as youth leaders, and what kind of led them to being interested in working with this work group and supporting the work of healing in the city. So putting you guys a little bit on the spot. But yeah, Noah, would you mind going first?
Yeah, hey y'all, how y'all doing? My I got into this from restorative response Baltimore. Actually, me and Cherry, we both came from that, and that was one of my first facilitation roles, and that just taught me a lot about um restorative healing and practices, which really allowed me to do good in this role. And then another thing for facilitation is I facilitate this book club in DC. It's called No Name Reads, and we just had a meeting this Saturday on Elite Capture by Olufemi Otawo. I don't know if y'all know that, but that was that's another facilitation role I do, and that's just real impactful in the community. It brings all of us together to talk about what's really going on. And that's my background. I got Baltimore State Community College, and I think I'm a transfer to University of Baltimore. But that's me, and that's what I do. And on my free time, I like to skateboard.
Awesome.
And which part of the city do you live in?
I just moved out of the city. I just moved to Columbia, Maryland, but I think I'm about to move back to the city.
That's great. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah, I'm about to come back real soon.
Charity, do you want to go next? And then we'll introduce ourselves as the work group members.
Yes, I can go next. Hey everyone, I'm Charity Fisher. I'm from East Baltimore. I go to Clark Atlanta currently for social work, but I just want to do impactful things, and I feel like this is just me stepping into another, space to learn and grow and, just offer what I have. I got connected through Healing Youth Alliance with Dr. K and all the greats, Miss Nia, everybody. So I'm just here to really offer my value through my experiences, what I've learned, and I'm really excited to get to know everybody. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now I'm going to ask our awesome work group members to introduce themselves and share a little bit about their background and how they got into this work. And since I'm putting you guys on this spot,
Hey everybody.
Yeah, go ahead, Tyron.
My name is Tyron Rice. I work at the Baltimore City Health Department's Office of Youth and Trauma Services. I've been working in this field now for about 3 years directly, but I've always found it helpful to work with the youth of the community. So I guess you could say I've been doing this for more than a decade.
And Charity, and if you guys have any questions or anything like that as we're introducing ourselves, please feel free to come off mute. And let's just kind of popcorn style it. So I'll go next. Hi, my name is Mariel Pfister. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I currently work with Dr. K at the Collaborative at the University of Baltimore, and support Healing Youth Alliance, which Charity was talking about earlier, some other amazing programs. And I really got into this work. I would say specifically like trauma-informed practices. When I started off in social work, I started off working with young adults in foster care, and that experience and getting to know those amazing individuals is really what brought me here today and started my journey in this work. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Leaf, if you wouldn't mind going next and introducing yourself.
Sure. So I'm Phil Leaf. Been living in Baltimore since 1990. Got involved in this work when I had a system of care grant, which was providing services for children who had mental health problems to try to keep them in the community and things. And out of the first 140, 3 of them got shot. And this was in 1994, 95. And so decided that besides trying to provide healing to them and their families, luckily none of them got killed, but that also needed to sort of be focused on how do we actually reduce the shootings, and have been doing those things and working with the community for a long time. Also secretary of the We Are Us group, and also My Brother's Keeper Baltimore, which is affiliated with the Obama Foundation and the Eastern Police District. So do a number of other things. So I'm gonna pass it around. I guess pass it around to Ryan or
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Haynes, and I work with Dr. K on a collaborative, and I also work with Mario, and I'm also a student at the University of Maryland School of Social Work. Pretty much, I'm out here just trying to do the work that Mario and Dr. Leaf just spoke about, and just trying to change the narrative and impact. And I'll pass it to Daniel.
See if my sound's working. You guys hear me all right? Yeah.
yes, yes.
Cool. My name's Daniel Parsons, and I am a teacher at Frederick Douglass High School in Baltimore. I've been there 11 years now. A lot of things brought me into this work. I guess being front and center in 2015 for the uprising, and just kind of seeing the lack of response in terms of the trauma that led up to that moment and the trauma that happened after that moment. But really what catalyzed it was 2019, a shooting at our school. And the work that students such as Brianna Harris, who's on here right now, and Damani Thomas, Gianna Santos, and so many others did in advocating for attention, awareness, responsiveness to the needs of students, not just at the point of crisis, but like in all of the moments that we are existing in spaces that are funded by the city, that are designed to just help students grow, develop, dream, and heal, that too often are sites of trauma. So, yeah. Oh, I'm supposed to pick the next person. Sorry.
I was like, I can go next. I was like,
Yeah,
look, I'll do it.
Teresa.
Hi y'all. Sorry it's not on camera. I'm like picking my car up from the dealer. But Teresa Bruce, Baltimore City Public Schools teacher. Been doing that for 12 years. I did social studies for a while, but now I'm a librarian and it's pretty cool. That's all I got.
Elijah, do you want to go next?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Elijah Davis. I'm a photographer and a photography teacher now, and a mentor. I started this work my senior year of college, so that was like a million years ago. But I love what I do. I love impacting our youth, and yeah, like I continue to connect with young people through photography and other subject matters like podcasting. So yes, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good job.
Brianna, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hi, I'm Brianna Harris, but I go by Bree. I'm 20, born and raised in West Baltimore. I got involved with this bird back in 2019 when a shooting occurred at my high school, Frederick Douglass. Ever since then, I've just been involved. Before it even became a thing, I guess. So just like advocating, speaking out, sharing my story. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got.
I think Andrew or Sizen, either of you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm sorry. What's the question? Forgive me. What was the question?
No problem at all. We were just asking if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and the organization that you work for, and kind of how you got into this work of healing and trauma-informed care.
Yeah, so man, I had to go way back. So well, I just say 2000. That's when it was official for me in regards to doing this work. I just wanted to help young men out, particularly young Black men. I grew up without a father. I'm a junior. I don't know who senior is. He didn't sign my birth certificate. And, you know, every time I've been running youth programs for, you know, a long time, 15 years with Boy Scouts of America, 9 years Boys and Girls Club. Now I have my own organization since 2015. I heard somebody speak about the uprising, and that's when it was official. You know, I was riding in the heat of it with 40 other men. And, you know, the bottom line is our young men are suffering for lack of, you know, demand being in the household. So yeah, so that's why I got into this work. I just wanted to help teach and train young Black youth, particularly the ones whose, when I was growing up, my role models was drug dealers. So they the ones that I want to reach. They the ones I want to get to and connect with and give them some hope, show them a better way. So that's my focus right there. Thank you.
Captain Angie. All right. S. Susan, did you want to introduce yourself? No worries. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Maybe having tech issues. All right. So as far as an agenda goes, like I said, I wasn't here last week, so I might be missing some things. But I figured we were just kind of a little bit orient our new youth leaders to our general kind of process and everything like that, and some of the stuff we've been talking about and tuning into. So Noah and Charity, this is the Google Doc that we typically use to just kind of keep running agendas that you can go back and look at our work from in our general notes from previous sessions. You guys will be taking this over, so please feel free to reformat this in any way that you think makes way more sense than what it currently is. Yeah, and so typically our agenda is collaboratively set. As you heard, we have folks from a number of different disciplines and backgrounds and areas of work in this city. And so a lot of times we will come and have something to offer or to bring to the attention of the group, whether it's an upcoming great resource or a meeting or a meeting that we could help be there to really uplift youth voice and make sure youth are being invited to the table in decisions that are being made, or an initiative, you know, that we really feel like our different backgrounds could help contribute to finding a solution. So typically we set the agenda together. So is there anything else we should definitely make space to talk about with our remaining 20 minutes or so tonight? Okay. All right, cool. If anyone thinks of anything, feel free to drop it in the chat or come on mute. Yeah, and also guys, you know, like I said, our agenda is typically collaborative, and at this point we've been working with each other. Most of the team has been here for multiple years. I know, you know, I'm a newer member, but we typically have pretty steady membership, so we don't always do introductions at the top. But as you guys get more comfortable with the leadership role and take over setting the agenda, you can feel free to play around with it. And you know, if you would like to have a more set schedule or build in, you know, more community building or anything like that, that is totally up to you guys and your vision of this group. As you can see too, the members of this group are made up of adults mainly in different areas that are very passionate about working with young people and lifting up the voices of young people in this work, but aren't necessarily young people ourselves, maybe at heart, but but not technically. And so one of the main reasons we are so excited to have you guys here is to have your leadership and really hear directly from you guys on what the priorities should be in this work and in moving forward, and bringing this more young people to this space and more voices to this work group, because we know we can go farther together, as the old adage says. So that's a little bit of overview of our general kind of structure, if you can call it that. But yeah, and some things that we've been working on, and members that aren't here tonight, Jasiah from the Baltimore Recs and Parks is typically at these, or is at these meetings as she can. They are undergoing adding teen spaces to a lot of the recreation, or to, I think it's 5, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. 5 teen spaces, or 5 different rec centers are going to be getting teen spaces, and they really want to make sure that those are like trauma informed and healing centered spaces for young adults in the city. And they are going through trauma informed training, their whole staff, or just finished trauma informed training for their whole staff. And so they leaned on us in the past, trying to kind of help and advise them and provide support as needed for creating those healing spaces. So that is kind of an ongoing thing that we're working on with them. You know, it's they're a big organization and aren't necessarily here every single meeting, and so that's something that, like for instance tonight, we're not going to be really able to talk about potential next steps, but in future meetings, if they're here, they've really in the past made it clear that they'd appreciate our help. And so let's see, some things that we've asked in the past of them was if we could support them as maybe offering a landing space after their trauma-informed trainings, you know, a place to talk a little bit more or go deeper with the work and find out what more other resources they could tap into at their centers to make them more trauma-informed and have more supports for the young people there. And offer our help in connecting more youth job opportunities at the centers. We've heard a lot from we have heard from other cities that have models where they really hire a lot of young people as ambassadors at rec centers and make leadership spaces and positions for them in centers. And so we've also been offering our help with that. Yeah, and other than that, like Councilman Cohen shouted out Dr. Leaf in the main call. Dr. Leaf always kind of connects us with other city spaces and meetings that we should have on our radar, especially ones that we should be encouraging young people to come out to, or youth voice could really be needed. So that tends to be something that is always on our agenda, or nearly always on there. And our real initiative over the last few meetings has honestly been getting you guys here and the interview process and coming up with questions. And so that's also been our work recently. Yeah, any questions about any of that? I know that was a lot of word salad, but or anything else from the other members of the work group that maybe I missed, or you guys would like to add on to about the stuff that we've been talking about and thinking about tackling in the work group?
No, I don't have any updates or anything to say, but I do have like a couple updates from the last meeting.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
That I can share. All right, so last meeting, I know everybody wasn't here, and it was just me and Jasiah and think like 2 other members, but pretty much Jasia was talking about the plans with Rex and Parks. And she said the teen centers will be opening near the summertime. And they are painting, and the furniture for some teen spaces has come in. She also said that they need more resources, such as trying to support different traveling experiences for their teen. So their teen camps run from July 19th through August 10th. And she said they're trying to have at least like 6 days where they leave the teen spaces, and it's going to be 3 days of swimming and like 3 days of field trips. They don't know where the field trips are going to be at. And then they were also open. I think somebody made a suggestion to like having Rex and Parks or their space be shared by people in the community. So like say if Miss Susan wants to do like a sewing class, then Rex and Parks will have this space for them to do like a sewing class or something like that. So she said they're open to sharing their spaces for other things. They also did say they did start the trauma-informed training, and they are on their 3rd meeting. And she said it's like I think around like 9 months. So they're in their 3rd month right now, or last meeting they were in their 3rd month. So I think this is the 4th month coming up. So I believe around like October, November, no later than December, they should be done their trauma-informed trainings. And she said they're meeting once a month to do the trainings. I also asked about the finishing of the for us to finish touring the teen spaces, and she pretty much saying summer is a busy season for Rex and Parks, so they're dealing with a lot. So it's like kind of up in the air when we can finally finish seeing the teen spaces. And she also mentioned that some rec centers will be opening later, only until 11 o'clock. And you know the curfew for the teens this year is 11 o'clock. So they were just saying like having a safe space that teens can go to up until the curfew time. And they also talked about the last thing they talked about is teen fun night, which will be like 5 to 8:30 at all the park pools. So all the pools across Baltimore City. And they said they will need support from their work group. And that's pretty much all I have.
Brian, did she say what kind of support she wanted for the teen fun nights? Is that like volunteers or like getting the word out?
She didn't specifically say like what type of funding or what type of support they need, but I'm guessing volunteers, and I'm just guessing volunteers. I don't want to say like too much and give y'all the wrong impression, but so I'm just guessing volunteers.
Perfect. Okay. Volunteers. Okay. Great. And Brian, do you remember if, and it's okay if not, if she mentioned for the needing of like field trip opportunities, if she said like they need funds for that, or they just kind of need ideas or spaces, low cost, no cost places to go? Or
I think they just need probably just like funds with transportation, like trying to just get the funding around the transportation. And I think that's pretty much all. I didn't really get to ask her like about the field trip. She said they were still like trying to figure that out, like still trying to like plan the field trips out. But she did say they will need support around the transportation to get to like the pools and the different field trips that they have planned for their teen camps this summer.
Okay, cool. Any?
This was a while ago. So since then, with the curfew, which the rec center, this is the discussion about what the, changing the hours and stuff are partially a response to that. Not putting it in the 420. But let's get to the present, because like this is, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on and other people. So I guess the question is, what does the chief committee want? What do we want to be focusing on? Doesn't seem like we're focusing much on the trauma that's going on in the schools or the success that they've been doing. Is that something we're focusing on? There's, the whole series of things, including the curfew and the call out to all the community folks to be providing services during the day, later in the day and early evenings for the youth, so they have something to do as opposed to be wandering around, that the mayor's calls out and that his office is working on, that the rec center is one piece, and back in 420 there was a discussion there, but that's folded into the broader set of discussions about what's going on to reduce the trauma that the youth are experiencing. Both because there's either the lack of activities, but equally important is, and this was one of the things we've talked about at our other meetings, there are spaces out there where things that are going on, but the people don't know, the youth or other people don't know about them, or there's resources that are needed. So I think, I don't believe, and I may be wrong, but has the rec centers gotten the resources to take the people on field trips? Including potentially the field trip, the citywide activities that the mayor's office is organizing for over the summer. There's also efforts that are being organized in the neighborhoods for young people to go to for late afternoon, early evening. So there are things to be going. The midnight basketball games that they're scheduling to do. So I think. Thinking, from both the members or the young people, how do we, want to be facilitating these things or, again, once Memorial, once the quote summer starts at the end of beginning of September, excuse me, at the beginning of June, what does this committee want to be doing to be able to be monitoring both what's working and against letting people know about those things, but also if there are glitches that are causing additional trauma, to rectify that before it gets worse, as opposed to sometime next September talking about how bad things were for the summer and how many more people got killed and how many more young people experience trauma. And I think in the chat room, or Daniel had some comments or something in the chat room, and I'd be interested in not putting them on the line, but from hearing from Charity, and just if she has again thoughts about priorities and Noah about from their perspective things, or even how to find out about the things that are going on from the young people who are here now.
I mean, I definitely think that like we've had some really good partnership from Parks and Recs, and it's awesome. And I think the legislation does, in fact, deal directly with Parks and Recs. We've talked about this before. City schools is not covered in the legislation, so any work that we'd have to do with them would be entirely voluntary. And like getting that bridge built between us and them hasn't manifested yet. I do think your idea, Phil, of getting young people to be the ones sort of reaching out and doing that work might be really, really sort of important. It is crucial. Before city schools had founded their own trauma exploratory groups after the tragic incidents at Edmiston in particular. We'd reached out to them. We'd asked to do work with them. Still haven't had that happen yet. I'm holding out hope, but I don't know if any of the other teachers on here have been in contact with people from district. I don't know if they know that we're on here. We know that we're representing their interests on the task force. There's been no direct communication as educators. like even just communicating the needs, concerns, wishes of city schools here in this forum, you know, I'm not going to call it a missed opportunity, but I think it's a place where we really could do some awesome work. Got some distinguished alumni of city schools on the committee. Young people who are working in the city. I'd love to see that happen.
Hey, Daniel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question for you. So is your school, is it violence in your school every single week? What I mean by violence, like fights, is it fights every single day?
Yeah, I mean, our administration has sort of made climate and culture a huge priority, and they've gotten in control of it. But yeah, I mean, there's at least an incident or two per week, you know, even though things are significantly better than they used to be. Yeah, I'd say that violence is unavoidable. Like, we have yet to go a full week without it.
Thank you. And the reason why I ask, because I get calls every single day, you know, about the violence that's taking place in the schools, in the community. I mean, it's nonstop, like, and most of it's not reported. You know, it's not reported. So I got deans of schools, the deans sending me videos because they have to record it for their own safety. Now they can't break the fights up. They have to wait till the Baltimore City school officer come, or of course the climate control guys. So like, it's so difficult for a child to learn when they thinking they're going to be beat up, or they can't protect themselves, or they outnumbered. And I think we're addressing that now. I think I heard something. I'm on another meeting, so I didn't plan to be on this meeting as long. I didn't get the full agenda. I just was scheduled to share a few words, and I found out yesterday. So forgive me if I'm not hearing everything. But what I do know is
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Oh man. Okay.
I think Andrew was actually about to say something very profound.
What?
Yeah, Captain, take it away.
Well, yeah, I don't know about profound, Councilman O'Mario, but thank you. I just think when we know violence is taking place in our city schools, and we know it's not being reported, because I mean, it's probably, I'm quite sure it's being reported to the principal, but it spills over to the streets, to the community. And we have to have an answer for that. You know, if you're sick, you're going to take medicine, right? So we have to have an answer, and it's not being addressed. Not that the leadership, they're not trying to look for answers and solutions, but we need a model. If just for instance, if it's one school that we know that has a control, or has control of what's taking place in that school. I don't, Bryn Mawr, Friends, Roland Park, I don't know. But if there's a model, the model needs to be implemented into Merville, into Douglas, into Forest Park, you know, but this is what it needs to be addressed, right? And I just believe that, like, I believe we have the model, but we're not at the table to address it. So that's what I was going to say. So I was talking to Ryan about, I asked him a question in regards to, is it fights every day at Douglas? Yes. And he said, yeah, and most schools, high schools, is fights every day, every week. Something is happening in our city schools, and it's spilling over to the streets. And that's where the violence beget violence. And, we have to address that. So that's all I wanted to say.
It just like, I think that's like an excellent point, in particular, like developing a model that we know will work. I think one thing that's hard for people who aren't in schools every day to like understand is that schools often are sites of violence because students choose to fight there because they know it will be disrupted. Like they bring fights that could otherwise occur in the community or Mondawmin into the school, and it's weird because I'll even see it like they'll choose the time and place to fight when they know adults will actually be there. It seems counterintuitive, but it's like it's actually a sign of, it's a desire to be safe or be safer. It's a weird function, but like it happens when you have a school like at Douglas. We have a really strong security team, lots of really committed trained professionals who really do like prioritize social emotional learning, and Mr. Rivers has made that a huge priority, especially since 2019. But you'll find that violence will come like from the community into the school. Like let's say you have a 3-day weekend, that tends to lead to like more violence, say on the Tuesday that you get back, because people have saved it for the moments where they know that it'll happen in a place where there are adults that can intervene or try to stop it. But I've seen this year in particular has been hopeful for me in the sense that there's been way more students who are being proactive about violence disruption. And it seems like year on year that the work that's being done with SEL is at least catching hold, where 5 years ago no one would say anything if they knew a fight was coming. But nowadays students will like come up to trusted adults and be like, hey, listen, they know the team is there, they know the support is there. Yeah,
and I'll say this last thing. So I can't remember the young man that was murdered at Forest Park in that alley on El Dorado Avenue, but I do remember Jalen that got murdered out in Westport. And we just went out there 3-4 days. Then we went to the school the following week, the week after they buried them, well, the same week they buried them. And I happened to meet the grandmother, the entire family. I was at the repast, I was at the burial, I was at the cemetery. We actually secured it for the family. But he went to Westport Elementary Middle, Jalen, and one of the young girls had said something that the students didn't like. So they put her inside of a classroom. They was going to jump her. So they didn't want to call Baltimore City Police. They believed the principal, she didn't want it to go that far. So they called the mayor's office. Rick called myself, Uncle T, and we brought some guys up there, and we addressed probably about 80 students for about 2 hours with some of the parents. And initially it was ugly, but after about an hour and a half, everything calmed down. And my point for saying that is we talking about trauma and mental health right now. And the trauma team was in Westport Elementary Middle the week that Jalen was murdered, the following week when they came back to school. But the second week wasn't nobody there. And so, I mean, I don't know what to say about that in regard, like it needs to be a continuous effort in dealing with the trauma, because these children, I mean, after about an hour and a half, like everybody in the room was crying and in pain. And even the parents or the children that was initially going to attack the young lady, I mean, they was crying. Everything got worked out, and thank God for that. But I think the schools needs this every week. Like every week it has to be, whether somebody gets shot or not. And I'm quite sure it's there. I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. But when a young man is murdered and you got 12 and 11 and 13-year-old discussing murder, that's an issue. That's a problem right there. So that's all I want to say.
No, and Captain, I hate to have to cut this off because it seems like an amazing conversation. We are past time, but I would love to follow up with you. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You've probably got my stuff at some point, but I'd love to chat about this. I absolutely agree. We've been saying for screaming at the top of the rooftops, like we gotta be deeper in our schools on this stuff around grief, trauma, restorative practices, conflict resolution, mediation. Like, how do we relate to each other in ways that are healing and healthy? And I saw just the same dynamic play out at Patterson High School after a young man, Isaiah, was murdered there. They went in and then the team went out, and it just, it's continuing to, those kids are still hurt. So an enormous amount of work on this to be done. But again, appreciate all that folks are doing. Appreciate everybody's collective efforts. It really does mean a lot to see so many people in one space together that are doing the work. And just want to say I appreciate you all. And like I said, Andrew, I'd love to connect with you offline.
Oh, yes, sir, Councilman. I'm gonna reach out to you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Yes.
All right. Talk to you all soon. See you in a couple Thursdays.